Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Ramsey with the Empire Life podcast, and we interview entrepreneurs from all around the world that are building out their own online empires. We're a conscious tech company that help entrepreneurs to launch their online empires. And today we are with Jeremy Griffin. He's the founder of three amazing, successful companies, the Startup Street, Drop Zone, and Grizzly Targets. And he also is about to launch a few new radio shows and have a co-working radio space in Tampa, Florida. So that's all super exciting. We're so happy to be here with him today, and we're going to dive into so many juicy, amazing topics. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jeremy to intro himself a little bit more.
Semi-successful. Semi-successful. Doing well, but not quite in the, $20 million each range there. So.
Well, we all have huge goals. And I'm sure you're an overachiever as well. And thank you for having so much humility.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, there's fake it till you make it. And then there's just kind of realizing where you're actually at and owning it. And I think you get a lot more respect when you do it the ladder there, right? So, but everything's going good. All three of them are doing pretty well. It's interesting having three separate offices. The running around and the juggling of all of that is turning into my
space for each one.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, because I have a real estate office too, actually. So you can't combine a lot of these worlds together. And I've tried in the past, and there's just, you can't run marketing out of a manufacturing shop, right? You can't run real estate out of a manufacturing shop, and the marketing with the real estate, that wasn't working out too well either. So kind of learning how to juggle all three of those has been, that's been interesting, right? But luckily they're all pretty close to each other here in Tampa, so that helps.
Great. Yeah. And I would like to dive right in, Jeremy, and talk about some of the challenges that you've overcame to achieve the success that you've already achieved, and moving forward on continuing to improve and up level continuously. Can you give me a few stories from?
I think that probably the number one thing that I've realized it's helped to get me to where I'm at over the last probably 15 years now, and that I see has a continuing struggle for myself, because you're always trying to grow, and for everybody else, it's just staying organized. And how do I organize all this stuff? And I think that a lot of people, my cousin just moved down here, and he's extremely we grew up working together up in Rochester, New York, okay, working on houses and commercial properties and doing things like that and flipping properties for my uncle. And he's very talented. And he just came down here, and I've got him hooked up with an inordinate amount of investors that I know down here, right? So now he's finding what I've known for a while, which is, it's one thing to be really good at what you do. It's another thing to be able to organize things and fight that urge that you constantly have to be getting the task at hand done in front of you versus, you know what I mean? It's kind of like the work in the business or work on the business. And we've got all these cliched terms for it and all that, but I'm telling you, it is really, really real. And it is by far the hardest part of everything that I've had to figure out, and everything that I am trying to do even now with, growing all this stuff and launching new things and whatnot. It's just, how do we create, when we're trying to get something going and we're building it, how do we create it so that organization is literally built into it, right? You want to try to institutionalize processes as much as humanly possible, but also still leave enough creativity room in there so that you're flexible and, you're not stifling, innovation and all that stuff. But it's very, very tough. I struggle with it tremendously. I mean, I run around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I think I'm fairly organized, and it doesn't seem like that to a lot of people. But if you really look at everything that's going on, you'll see that the goal of maintaining some level of organization it's got to be almost the number one priority, because otherwise you'll get overwhelmed. and then things start falling through the cracks, and then things get screwed up. Your clients get upset, and you forget about appointments and this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, nobody can, every business is a shit show. It's just a matter of how much of one it is, right?
Especially if you want to do more than one company, which a lot of millionaires have 7 streams of
right.
7 streams of income coming in, and it saves so much time. I completely agree with you on how much time it also saves to have those SOPs
yes.
or processes from the beginning. And we also really try to encourage that with our clients. And that seems to be, when you're an innovative person, which a lot of entrepreneurs are,
yep.
they don't want to take the time.
Nope.
Like even when it comes to, and this seems like a simple process that you will start from the beginning, is what do our contracts look like?
Right.
Even that, a lot of times they're like, what? We need to do a contract? Like,
yep.
yeah, we need to have those solid processes and understanding what's in that contract.
And you're setting expectations then too.
Yeah, and what hours are you going to be working with your clients? Like,
right.
You want to put that in your contract or communicate that when you're talking to them. Like, I'm going to be offline for these hours.
Right.
To have sanity, because there needs to be so much other time devoted to the business that's not only devoted to working one-on-one or working with clients' projects. So
we love Joel like this. We love the client pop-ins here. Hello. Oh, it's in the area. You got an hour and a half? Sure. Why not? Not a problem. Let's do it. Oh, goodness.
How do you handle that? Wow.
I mean, here's the thing. And, people always say, oh, no, you got to but I'm always cognizant of who's signing the check, Yeah. And when you have ongoing relationships with people, you better be willing to just continue to eat the nonsense and deal with it as best as you can. Because at the end of the day, the clients realize, like everybody else in every other transaction, who's paying who, and I never want to forget that. I really try very, very hard. And let's face it, I'm not exactly, shy about voicing my opinions on things or whatnot, but I try really, really hard to never forget who's paying who in that relationship. Right.
Yeah.
I work for you. And at the end of the day, I get frustrated and I'll walk away, I'll grumble and I'll curse and all that, but I have to take a step back and say, okay, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to just move along? Or am I just making a big deal of this because of a million other things too? And, let's get back to work. So I don't know. I try to establish boundaries like that too, but business is chaotic and, but you're right. Establishing expectations with the contract is something that nobody even wants to go through. Usually because they're just excited and they want to get to work, right? Of course. Come on, let's do it, right? So
as long as you have some kind of loose boundaries, that's really helpful.
Right.
Especially at the beginning. And I have a boundary that I don't check my email after 6 in the evening, and I still do it. I still
right.
I have a hard time telling myself. And then I read the client's message and I'm like, don't answer. You
don't answer. I got to answer.
Because then if you do feel like you have to answer, of course it's okay to answer.
Right.
But as you do that, you're not keeping within the integrity. If you did set those boundaries, you need to still keep within the integrity.
Very tough.
And most likely, no one's going to die. Sometimes I ask myself, is anyone going to die? Is anyone going to be injured here? But
right.
Or is something going to crash with the tech part of it? If the answer is no to all of those, then I can answer the next day and everything's probably going to be okay. And I'm going to stay within my integrity. But that, even from my side, whether they express urgency or not, it's so challenging for me not to respond right away to everything.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough. And it's just one juggling act after another. With everything, and which is again why I'm saying organization, it's just so ridiculously important because you want chaos. Growth is chaos.
Exactly. What
it's
are
new.
When you are starting, what would you say are your top 2 tips to have that organization? Work with your team and talk with your team about it.
I would say there's that saying, you never know what you know until it's written down. So if all this stuff is not written down somewhere, like, all of your clients and your schedules and all that stuff, you need to have all that at the minimum in spreadsheets, and staying organized in that capacity. And here's the thing too, is you think that when you're done with somebody, especially if it's like a one-off project or whatever, all right, cool, I'm done with that. Well, if you end up in a position where you need to drum up some work, the easiest way to get work is to always go to your previous clients, right? Whether it's, you're selling products or you're running a service or whatever, the easiest way is to always go back to the people that have already purchased from you. So if you haven't kept good track of that was something I struggled with a lot way back in the day, was just organizing the very basics, because again, you just get so into doing the work that it just becomes almost, I'll worry about that later. I'll worry about that later. Next thing you know, it's 2 months later, that thing's gone. That, and probably I would say, the other tip is the longer out that you plan, generally the better off things are going to turn out. Right? So you've got to build things kind of with the end in sight. And I think that does two things. A, it makes sure, and when you're building it with the end in sight, that again goes back to organizing. But when you're building it with the end in sight, at least for you, it allows you to kind of visualize the end of the road and keep an eye on what that, you know what I mean? Like, I know what all this looks like down the road. So when things get insane for me or super stressful, I've already programmed that in the back of my mind, and I realize this is the means to get there. Whereas if you are just kind of doing it and, I grew up with a lot of people that were literally just every week, it was like, just try to drum up some work. Let's go try to drum up some work. Let's go try to get something going, and there was never any kind of a long-term plan there or whatever. So you're just completely reactionary. And again, that also comes back to organizing, right? So
yes, a lot of entrepreneurs seem to be in that reactionary instead of within the flow, innovative, creative space.
Yeah.
Me, I tell my clients that are super creative, because most entrepreneurs are really innovative, and I've heard that it can feel like if you're too organized, then you're like shackling yourself in. But in my opinion, when you have that infrastructure built in already, you're actually allowing yourself more freedom.
Yeah.
To maneuver within infrastructure.
Yeah. There is a point where you do reach, diminishing returns, obviously.
Yeah.
I've known some people that, they haven't worked for 2 weeks, and I go over to their house and they're in their basement straightening it up. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, well, this was down here and a lot of my equipment's down here. And I'm like, man, no, like, you need to get on the phone and get going. But overwhelmingly, yeah, you cannot go bad in that arena. So.
Cool. Yeah, Jeremy, I wanted to also hop into how you deal or handle and use this as a momentum with your haters, or with people that don't quite see eye to eye with what you have going on in the world. And I'm sure that you've had a lot of exposure to that with the success of your 3 companies, and then also with your clients. And what are some tips for you on that? I guess what I'm asking also is, what is the mindset for you to be able to use that as momentum to move forward and continue to stay motivated with what you're doing now? And what advice do you give to your clients and other entrepreneurs about that?
So that's always an interesting one, right? Because everybody naturally just wants to lash out on people when they kind of get at them a little bit. But growing up, we always used to say, if you're not pissing anybody off, then you're not going hard enough, right? So like, if nobody's got a problem with you whatsoever, then things have gotten really calm and you're not pushing at things hard enough, right? So I think that as far as how do you deal with that, you just, look at Grant always says that you need that. You know what I mean? And here's something that's cool, especially with Facebook and stuff. That'll actually, if you're trying to create a lot of engagement, having a couple people that'll come on and pick some fights and do all that stuff, that will actually help trigger a lot of things with the algorithm and whatnot, right? So it can be helpful in that regards. But as far as, how do you manage those situations like in an immediate way and the mindset? I mean, you just have to understand that like everybody's coming from a different perspective. And I know, like for me, for example, like I'm at the point now where, people that I've known for quite some time and whatnot, they're like, oh man, man, you're really lucky. Man, you really lucked out. I'm like, I lucked out. Like I've been working 80 to 90 hours a week for almost 2 decades. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you not know me? Like, I'm one of the most unlucky human beings on the face of the planet. At least it feels like it, right? So you just have to remember that everybody's coming from a different perspective. And the only thing you can try to do with that is to literally kill them with kindness and say, listen, I understand it. I understand what's going on, blah, blah, blah. If you ever want to talk, here's where I'm at, come pop in, you don't need an appointment. But then there's the issue of, like fake reviews and just people straight up trying to trash you online. And that's an issue that I don't really have an answer for. I mean, you deal with that as best as you can, but yeah, I mean, if Grant says haters are good, then I'm going with what he says. Okay.
Grant
So,
Cardone, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Referring to. Have you ever been to one of his conferences?
No, I haven't. I'll be honest with you. I don't go to a lot. I go to a lot of other types of conferences. I go to a lot of other, industry specific conferences, whether it's, for this industry or that industry or that industry, but I don't really go to a whole lot of marketing / entrepreneur conferences because I'd rather go to the other ones where I know like, okay, so here's an industry I'm familiar with. I'm going to go and I can sell my marketing that we do to all of them, right? Whereas you go to a marketing one, and unless you have some kind of like software, you've got some kind of client service program or whatnot, like everybody's just kind of there to kind of, I don't know, like pump each other up a little bit. And, like the time thing, I don't even like going to the trade shows a lot these days, right? And I know I'm going to go in there and just absolutely crush, but I haven't. His is the one though, the 10X thing is the one that I probably would like to go to just because I'd like to go and check it out and see what's up with it.
Cool. Yeah, we had some clients that went to one of his events.
What'd they say?
They said it was really great and that there was a lot of promotions. A lot of the speakers were promoting their products, so they didn't know what they thought about that, but otherwise they really loved everything and they made a lot of cool connections.
Right.
And
I would love to go to it. Plus it's in Vegas, and who doesn't like Vegas, right?
Yeah. They were also able to ask a lot of feedback on different products that they wanted to launch.
Okay.
It was a very supportive environment.
Good. So he probably felt the same way that I did then with how they usually go and wanted to, you know what I mean, build it a little bit differently than from the sounds of it.
Yeah. I wanted to also ask you, what are the no-nos? Like, what should you not do if you see a hater or you have somebody that posts something that you don't agree with? Like, what do you not do?
Don't attack back. Don't turn it into a virtual street fight because nobody wins that.
Right.
Right? Like you've got to remove your ego from what's going on and realize that as nerve-wracking as it is seeing your name, a lot of times your own personal name, not even your company's name, right? Seeing your personal name get dragged through the mud like that, there's really not that many people that are seeing it at any given moment. So you think about how big the total marketplace is, and then you think about how many people are probably actually going to see that. And then you think about, the last month, and you've probably done a lot more out in public, wherever you're at, to humiliate yourself than you have, and what the damage that comment is going to do, right? So I don't know, like you just got to, you have to realize that you're about ready to just pop off and take a step back and like getting in there and fighting back on people in a public forum is very, very dicey. And if you're going to try to come in and comment and be like, yeah, listen, I got you, like we were saying with the fake reviews before, like there was a couple of them that we had even in one of our companies, the clients are having some issues with it too. But I'm like, hey, listen, man, like I don't see your name in our database as a customer, but I want to help you. So can you reach out? Can you call so we can get this figured out? But like when you just start doing the comment thing on people's posts and people start, if somebody starts slamming you on your page, like you should either, you can always have the option to just hide it, right? You can just hide the comment and then only their friends can see it. And their little friends will think that they got over on you and they can celebrate and everybody can go about their way. But if you're going to respond, you just got to be careful because it's not a face-to-face communication, which is why everybody can be so rude on there, and I know some people like, Gary likes to say like, well, it's just exposing us for who we really are. And it's like, I mean, maybe internally, but I can assure you, like in real life, people would not say some of that stuff to me. Yeah. Like if they were standing right there in front of me, I had a situation a little while ago, I had to present something at this board and they were having the board meeting and there's probably, I don't know, there might've been 30, 40 people in there. I don't know, something along those lines. And I was up there presenting it. It was something that had a project that had already been finished. And this was like a debriefing. And man, there's a lot of people that started throwing some comments at me. And I'm just, one of the guys is like, man, I've never seen somebody deflect things like that before. I'm like, well, listen, what are you going to do? You know what? Am I going to get upset now too? And sure enough, I tell you what, as soon as that board meeting was over with, I went out, I found those handful of people and I walked up to them and I shook their hand. I said, hey, listen, man, my name's Jeremy. I understand you had these issues. Totally different tone, completely different tone, right? Because the mob mentality is now gone. And now it's person to person. So yeah, I know a lot of people say that, oh, it hasn't changed anything. It's just exposing us for who we are. But our thoughts versus our actual actions have always been radically different. So you just got to remember that, everybody's got a point to prove, right? When they're sitting behind the keyboard, and you just have to laugh about it and kind of move along.
How did they even take the time? Or a lot of times I tell myself, wow, I must have been that important for them.
Right.
The time to make that comment. Same as when we were little, if people gossip about us.
Right.
And you hear the gossip, you're like, wow, they took their time out of their day to talk about me.
Yeah.
I've never even talked about them once.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I love debating things on Facebook. I love it, right? And I love to play devil's advocate because I like to see the interaction and I like to see when I see like because there's always two sides to every coin, right? Especially in business, right? So I do enjoy going on to people's pages and I see everybody agreeing on one thing and I like to just toss something out there. Well, maybe whatever, right? And I do enjoy seeing those interactions and stuff, but that is way different than the way some people go about it on there. So
that's way different. And it becomes way more personal, even if we tell ourselves it's not personal, it's my business.
Right.
It becomes more personal when they're commenting about your company.
Yeah.
Maybe that you were 90 hours a week.
I don't care what anybody says. Like, it's always personal.
It is.
Like anybody's, it's not personal. It's just business. Like, no, that's my shit that you're talking about. Okay. Like, it's personal. I'm offended. I'm upset. Like I'm only a human being here, so.
Yeah. Reach out to me on a direct message. I'll let you know that. I would love to talk with you more about this on the direct message, or let's hop on a call. So you feel like that's the best answer.
Yeah. If you're going to try to deal with it, just deal with it lightly and stay humble and keep a very lighthearted approach to it. Because the minute you turn negative, now you're nobody wins that, right? Like literally nobody wins that. You both have publicly humiliated yourself. I don't know about you, but I found I get commenting sometimes at 2:00 in the morning. It hasn't happened in a little while, right? But certainly over the years, I mean, everybody that's listening to this right now has woken up on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning and said, "Oh my God, I never should have said that last night." Right. So just, you have to keep a clear mind, like that when it doesn't matter if it's because you're out and you're partying or you're clouded because of anger, or a lot of times fear because somebody's slamming you and you automatically think to how many people are going to see this. Right. oh my God, who's going to see that? I can't believe that just happened. Right. So it's a lot of times it's just fear, but
Sometimes
it's clouded. So
it does get clouded. Sometimes we forget that being more visible also makes us
yeah,
more vulnerable.
yeah,
Like
yeah, much more.
Mm-hmm.
Much more, which is scary in of itself, to be honest with you.
It is. It is. And then when you see somebody slamming you, you're like, oh, I know I shouldn't have been more vulnerable. I know I need to take back. But
Yeah.
you're saying that, no, that means you're on the right track. You're doing something right. You're moving forward. And if you're facing someone or you're triggering them, you're actually on the best path for you. And you need to keep doing that and moving forward.
Yeah, because like, so when you have people that, so say you have companies and they get partnered with some kind of an influencer or something like that, and then they promote out whatever it was that you wanted them to promote, and you know the company that's used to getting 2 to 3 to 5 to 10,000 views on YouTube all of a sudden got 500,000 views. Guess what? The comments get a lot. The comments get a lot more real at that point too, right? Just due to the much larger nature of all of it, right? So it's always a really, really big eye opener. But that's all you can do is you say, well, this is just how it goes. What are you gonna do? You know, like try being a politician, or you know, like a global industry leader of anything. I mean, it's awful what people will do, and you just got to deal with it. And I think it gets easier too. You know, it's like anything else; you get used to it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because the first time we put on Drop Zone, the one that we just did was actually the second one. The very, very, very first one that I did was almost 3 years ago. And I won't lie, it was an absolute nightmare, okay? It did not go how I wanted it to go at all. The people who are in the industry, and just so everybody knows, like at that point, we were just attempting to combine a Spartan obstacle course with a live fire shooting competition, right? So that was a very, very process-oriented event in that figuring out how do we do this and make it safe and keep the flow going and we can work people through. When I put that together, it was a disaster. I mean, it was an absolute disaster. It was safe, and everybody that was like deep into the obstacle course racing and all that stuff saw that I finally cracked the code on how we can do this. But oh my God, the amount of things that people said about me it was absolutely awful. There's people guys sent out an email blast to like 4,000 people, called it a Mickey Mouse event. People were just running my name. This guy is an idiot. He has no clue what he was doing, that was right. I had no clue what I was doing. He won't listen to anybody. That was true too. But like, I mean, just everybody would just absolutely bashed us. So when we did it this next time, there was still some lingering comments. Hopefully it's better than that circus that he did 3 years ago. I ain't going, you know, I'm like, oh my God, like this is so bad. But if you want national prominence, then you have to be willing to go through national humiliations, right? And that's just how it goes. And there's nothing you can do to get around it because it's always been like that. And it's human nature and like mob mentality, like people in big groups think dramatically differently than they do when they're individuals. You know, and like that group mindset sets in, especially now with social media. And it is not an individual exchange one-on-one. It's a group. It's a group over here, all casting stones in one direction. And human beings have always been like that. So like, what are you going to do? You know, you try to stay out of the way of the stones as best as you can, I guess, and laugh and move along.
Yeah. Or you try to also talk to the mob like, hey, guys, you know, I'm really not that bad. I'm actually kind of cool. Can I be in your group?
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. At that point, when people go to that, they won't even admit if they were wrong anyways.
That's true.
You know, they're like, no, I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, he tried to reach out, but I'm not humoring that, you know. So, but you're right. You say it, and whether they do it or not.
Another mob to find a mob.
I'm telling you, the angry mob mentality in America right now is getting terrifying.
It is.
It's all over the place with everything. And I'm just like, wow, like this is really insane what we're dealing with right now. You know, because the worse it gets, the more easily it's exploited for anything.
Right.
You know, you have like a brand with a super loyal tribe to it. Like that person can do, and I've seen it too. And I've seen it in the entrepreneurial space online where I see people do stuff that's like, dude, that is not cool. Like you should not do that. You should not talk to another human being like that. And if I see that, like if I see somebody's trying to get over on somebody else and it's blatant, I don't mind stepping into the middle of that whatsoever, right? Whether it's online or it's honestly, if it's real life or whatever, right? Like if I see that, I can't walk away from it. So, but you step in and you say something like that, and people are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This person did this and they did that and they did that and they did. And I'm like, I ain't talking about their freaking resume. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the interaction that I just saw that was completely unfair, that was completely uncalled for. Right. But those are the followers, you know, and the followers will follow people right off of a cliff, and human beings have always been like that. Right. So,
and as one of those leaders, we always need to check ourselves. Am I in integrity? Am I in humility? Yep. And am I really walking the path that I'm telling my clients to walk?
Right.
And so it goes back to the root of it. What's the leader doing? Is he or she letting their power kind of overconsume them?
Yep.
Are they in integrity within their power? I feel like it goes back to that.
And that's really where you start to find out who has been through what and who really is who, is when people start to go down that path, you know, and I see it a lot in all sorts of industries and different organizations and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, you know, you see people and they start looking at themselves in a certain way and whatnot. And I'm like this guy couldn't lead his way out of a wet paper bag. You know what I mean? Like, who is this person think that they are to talk to these people like this? Right. So it's interesting. I just enjoy the dynamic. Honestly, I enjoy the dynamic of watching different leadership styles and seeing how people respond to it. And especially in the group setting versus the individual setting. Because like I said, we've been testing out the podcast stuff here in this room for a little while, but we were talking about that the other day, in that, you know, marketers, like nobody really wants to go and like actually study the group mentality of the market. We always like to look at the end user as that mass that is just an individual. And there's reasons for that. But everybody's always scared to go over to that because the group thing is like the dark side of behavior, right?
It's
but
scary, true.
You know what I'm saying? It's and that is where you start to have seen it throughout history. A lot of people take advantage of a lot of things, right? And we wonder how all of these nations have gone to war against one another, and how on earth have we been through 3,000 years of constant war on this planet, right? And it's because of group mindset, and some people understand it and they come in and they use it to the advantage and blah, 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 and all that. So I find that interesting to look at that from a marketing perspective when I see things happening, especially now that we're in the online world, because you can form that relationship with people without ever actually having to have met them, right? So you can literally form an online group of supporters who have never met each other. Most of them have never even met you, but you still see that same kind of mindset of the group coming in. So what that means, or where any of your listeners want to take that, totally up to them. But I find it fascinating.
The Facebook groups that are successful and growing at a rapid amount, they are honing in on how the group mentality marketing and it's really beneficial. I completely agree. Yeah, and before we hop off, Jeremy, I wanted to go into what are the 3 tips that you will give to new entrepreneurs, or things that you wish you knew when you were first getting started?
Okay, so I always say this first and foremost, because this is probably the one thing that I struggle with the most, right? And the movie was not even out back then, but if you want to party like you're on the Wolf of Wall Street, when you're just getting started, it's not going to be conducive to putting things together in a meaningful way, right? If you're really talented, you can do it and kind of keep stumbling along. Lord knows I stumbled along for long enough, but you've really got to try to make sure that as you start growing and you start, running into, different levels of cash that you're used to, that you take your personal life and you make sure you keep that reeled back a little bit. And a lot of people aren't going to go out and just kind of party it up like that, like crazy, but they'll go out and they'll start buying all sorts of stuff that they need and this, that, and the other thing. And so like, you've got to be cognizant of that, and you have to see that it's coming, right? Like it's coming, and you have to understand where you're at. Second thing is probably, like I was saying, try to build it with the end in sight, because I think that helps you to stay organized and actually build it where it makes sense to you then internally. It'll help you deal with the stress and whatnot. And then the third thing is probably, I would say, honestly, probably the one thing that I see a lot of small companies and a lot of small businesses not doing a lot of, that I've been doing a ton of, and I'm do it with all the clients, and it's a big part of our success, is reaching out and forming some kind of handshake partnerships with complementary industries. Right. And you don't have to come up with some kind of a contract or this, that, or the other thing. But like, if you are roofing houses, it will do you a tremendous amount of good to just go and introduce yourself to some carpenters and some builders and some flooring guys and some HVAC guys and this, that, and the other thing, and give them your cards and take theirs and try to kick them some leads. And when you do that, you're essentially building a hub in the industry as a whole, because most of us are pretty niched out at this point, right? We're in an industry, but we're doing a certain thing within that industry. There's not a whole lot of people in any industry at this point that are just doing all of it, right? Unless you're like Procter & Gamble or something like that, right? So doing that and creating that network, I think, is tremendously important, and it doesn't cost a penny, and it will elevate you whether you want to be elevated or not. Because if you do that, the very fact that you're trying to do that will raise some eyebrows. You're becoming more valuable in the community, in the industry. It's a really, really good tactic to do that. And I don't see nearly enough people doing things like that. And it amazes me.
Yeah. Because ultimately your clients will ask you all kinds of questions of, do you know somebody that could do that? Can you help me with that? And if you've already thought about it and planned with the end in sight, you're like, yeah, I know Joe, and I can connect you guys.
Right.
And if you and Joe already have an agreement,
yeah,
we have 17 more we're always adding to our team, and a lot of people on our team are partnerships that we've created.
Right.
We have some kind of agreement, and we may not utilize those people every month, but
right.
if that was to come up with a client.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you don't have to kick people that much work to leave a lasting impression.
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't. And then when you're talking about, in any given industry, you can create a network of 10 complementary companies, niches, and you fill them. You really then only need them to kick you one or two things, each one. If each one of them if one out of the 10 of them kicks you something per month, right? Depending on what we're talking about in contract size and stuff like that, that can be a total game changer.
Oh yeah.
But you got to go out and force that. Like, you can't just have a client say, cool, well, if you refer me out, I'll do this, that, or the other thing. Like, go out and find the people that have your clients that are in a complementary industry and figure out how you guys can work together and leverage all of those contacts that they have, right? And preferably people with a lot more contacts than you, right? If you're just getting going, you want to find the other company that's in your industry that's kind of that little sweet spot you're always looking for, right? Like, not a super multinational, but not just a single lone store. You want somebody with a decent base, but they're still pretty local. Find a way to partner with them. It always amazes me people don't do more of that.
Me too. I completely agree.
There we go. How was that?
What will you say the third one is? Or was that 3?
I think that was 3.
Okay.
I think that was 3. I don't know. I'm sure we can whip up another one if need be.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's such a pleasure. And people can contact you on the Startup Streets, Drop Zone, and Grizzly Targets.
Yep.
And are you on Instagram and Facebook as well?
Yep, all that stuff. It's all out there.
Jeremy Griffin.
Yep, I'd love to be able to. I'd love to hear from people, and by all means, if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.